Happy Thursday, everyone. Bonnie and Greg Dixon here, and our guest today is Tiffany West, and she's going to talk to us about her journey to become an emotional care coach, promoting conscious living and body-based healing from the inside out. So, Tiffany, maybe you can just expand on your introduction and just tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey.
Yeah, happy to be here. I'm so glad you guys had me on here. Hello, everybody. Again, my name is Tiffany West, and I am the owner of Interior Health Design LLC. It is a inner wellness life coaching company, like Greg said, that promotes conscious living, like really living authentically to who you are, and body-based healing from the soul inside out. And what got me started on this journey was I was having some of my own health issues and my body was not healing. It was actually leaving me. I felt like I was really deteriorating at a really young age. And starting as early in my 20s, I just experienced chronic pain, chronic migraines, and headaches. And then as I moved into my early 30s after having my firstborn son, I really took a turn to where my pain was debilitating. I was losing my hair. I had immense digestive issues, and just symptoms were firing off left and right. Like you name it, I had it. So that is what got me on the path to what I do now, is because when I was going through this grueling process of trying to understand what was going on with my body, what I needed to do to feel better. I felt like I was at war with my body. It was creating a lot of anxiety and depression. So my mental health was taking a toll. I heard often through our traditional medical system, they tried their hardest and they did a lot of amazing things. However, I just never left feeling better. And I was really left feeling lost and alone and feeling like nobody could help me if I couldn't get help from my doctor or any kind of specialist. What was I going to do? And I remember being at this really hopeless crossroads. And I was inspired to get certified as a health coach and really start learning about my body and learning about foods. And I've heard food is medicine. So I was like, oh, yay, I get to start playing with different foods and shifting how I eat and how what I have in my home. And I really started getting more in touch with my physical health and started eating differently, becoming more physically active, getting back to what I did as a child. I was very athletic as a child. I really took that on and it worked really well and lost a lot of weight. That's always a good perk. And that went on for about a year. And then I remember I was like, I love doing this. And I started helping others do the same thing. And I worked full time at a corporate job. And I worked in a small credit union. And my members would come in and they would see what I was eating and they wanted to know what I was doing different. It seemed like I was really healthy and life was shifting for me. And I was real eager to teach it. And what I noticed with myself and my clients is that excitement is great in the beginning. And I was able to do all these changes with the excitement of doing something new and taking personal ownership. And my willpower was on board. But then things started to hit a plateau. And I just couldn't get past certain habits, or I kept not being able to stick to the healthy habits. And I was noticing with my clients as well, they would do really well at first, and then they would kind of backslide and then beat themselves up as a result of not being able to stick to the things they know that were healthy for them. So that took me on a journey to get certified as a life coach. And I really started looking more into the mind and how our mindset helps us, create habit change. And that worked for a while too. And again, I kept hitting plateaus and my clients did. So that's what really took me into the emotional realm of our health and really studying the impact of unresolved emotional pain and trauma and how that impacts our overall health and well-being. And that's where I've landed today. I actually found the secret. I found the missing piece of the puzzle, and I'm really happy to share a method that I've created to help me really get out of some of those toxic health habits and into a more healthy relationship with my body, my mind, myself, and then the people around me. So that's pretty much my story in a nutshell.
No, that's fabulous to get. You kept on going back to the core. You
Yeah.
started with habits, you started with healthy eating, and then getting back to the emotional basis from it all.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Do you have an age group that you like to work with, Tiffany? Are they Are they professionals that are working hard and are blocked, or is it younger or older people? Who do you like to work with?
Yeah, I mean, I love all human beings, and who I've found that are most attracted to my work and who I resonate most with are women, busy women and moms. So many of my clients, some stay-at-home moms, some are high executive professionals, some have their own business. So I've got a variety, but the common thread is this incessant sense of self pressure to get a lot done. For me, I was a single mom with my oldest son, so my lifestyle was really fast paced. I was constantly hustling, pumping out tons of adrenaline. And you would have asked me back then, and I would have said, "Oh, this is great. I'm a multitasker. I do great." Like, I was really having a high from that chronic stress response, but I didn't realize that was part of what was breaking my body down and wasn't allowing some of the other healthier habits I was implementing to work. So my clients that I attract are similar to that. But I do have a range of working moms, single moms, moms who are married, moms who are divorced, and then just women who don't have kids as well. So there's a little bit of a variety in there, but all of the same thread of living under a chronic state of stress and
Right.
overwhelm.
Yes, yes. And would you say with each one of your clients, I'm sure you have an intake form, what would be the number one thing other than chronic stress? They might be all under that. Where do they tend to head for first? Is there a certain area, or does each individual have somewhere that's more important for them?
What I'm finding is the most common, that's a really good question because you've got me thinking as you're asking it. What when you say head for, is that like the symptom that they're trying or the problem they're trying to solve? Yeah, most of them come to me. The main thing on all of my forms when I take a private coaching application is I'm really lost and don't know where to go or don't know where to start, and they just feel very, very anxious, and some come in very depressed. But the number one thing I'm finding is just the chronic anxiety and the worry of what's going to happen in my future. How am I going to continue to live this way? Feeling very hopeless and lost is where I find a lot of my clients in the beginning.
That's wonderful. So you give them some hope that
Absolutely.
indeed life can change. And here's some tools that I have in my toolbox that we
Absolutely.
can try. And
Yeah.
what's your favorite tool? You created something, it sounds like.
I did. So I've got my baby. It's called the Calm Remedy, and it's an acronym. So the word calm, it's a 4-step process, and each step starts with a letter, spelling out calm. And the first step to that process is to connect. And so I am a trauma-informed facilitator and coach, and I've done a lot of studying and research on early childhood trauma. And what I really narrow down is on the covert trauma, the relational and developmental traumas that we don't really see on the outside. Whereas with some of those bigger T traumas, we know that there's been abuse when there's physical, sexual, or any kind of really violent physical tragedy that somebody experiences. There are usually physical scars. Where I focus in on the invisible emotional scars that many people don't realize they're walking around carrying because they feel not all the way okay, but something's not off, or they're having symptoms that won't go away. So I've noticed and I've learned that with trauma, we disassociate and we disconnect from our bodies because it's a situation that we have no skill set yet or haven't been modeled how to process the emotions that come with that traumatic event. And so because trauma happens in the body, my calm method, that first step, helps to bring connection back to where we've been typically disconnected and disassociated from our true home. And that's where the healing process can start, is when we start connecting with our bodies in a different way and connecting with our emotions differently than we've been taught to. And that's my favorite step of the process, is to reconnect where there's been a disconnect.
Do you do work just with individual clients, or do you do group classes or anything?
I'm working on a workshop now, and I'm also working on a group program because my clients are getting such good results. I was growing my one-on-one practice, but now I'm already seeing that I'm not going to be enough people to handle all of the interest that people have and all of the amazing results and transformation they're getting. So I am actually in the process of creating a group program and a workshop so I can start teaching this to more people at one time.
Wonderful. And that would be an online program?
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. It's almost like I know a whole bunch of people that need to come.
We don't have to look too far.
We don't have to look too far. And then the question I have for you is an interesting one. I'm one of 5, and I just said this to my sister today, my 4th sister. And she was talking about some stress, and she's retired now. I mean, I guess 4 of us are retired now, but I'm thinking, wow, she's still under such stress. And I thought, do you think that, like you said, the family itself can be traumatized, and then all the siblings are traumatized out of that? And do you ever do families?
Oh yeah, big time. I start with my clients, and I'm always selling family packages where, there's sessions at a time, but they can bring in different family members, and we can have a couple working together, or 3 people, or we kind of mix it up. And I'm really good at gauging when a client is ready to bring in the family, because if the family was the source of how that the environment that the trauma was created in, then the family is always typically a really humongous trigger. And sometimes people are aware of that, but sometimes they're not, especially when they have really close relationships with particular family members, and you're thinking, we've been so close all of our lives, but you don't realize like the enmeshment that can go on with that type of dynamic. So I help families really unpack that so that they can rebuild on a healthier foundation and shift the dynamic, because typically there's a lot of codependency that goes on with things like that. So when one person tries to heal, it really is like a threat to the rest of the family. And so I really work with families on that. It's almost essential when one person in the family unit is doing the healing work. It's inevitable that at some point other family members are going to come in, or it's going to create a lot of discord to where there has to be like a shift in living, because the person healing just needs that space to not be triggered as often.
Right. And then sometimes as the families grow older, the person who caused all the havoc is gone.
Yeah. Yep.
Past this world. And then the people are left in the side of the ditch there.
The aftermath.
The aftermath.
They're left on the battlefield.
Yes. And is that sometimes what you find with your clients, that they
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And what the cool thing though about this work is, you don't need your mom's, you don't need her to apologize, or you don't need her to admit that she was wrong. All of that is amazing if our parents or our caretakers or whoever created the trauma in the first place. And I'll tell you why I do air quotes here in a second. We don't need their buy-in, and we don't need them to change in order for us to get the healing that we need. And that is involved in my calm method and the framework that I use on really tuning in and learning how to affirm yourself and get to know what needs were not met as you were growing up, and being able to own that, because some people have a really hard time just admitting that their emotional needs weren't met, although their physical survival needs, they were taken care of. They had a roof over their head. Their parents worked really hard, worked hard to provide to them everything that they needed. So I work with them with a lot of guilt around being able to admit, yeah, my mom busted her butt and did everything she could to take care of me. However, there was a sense of abandonment because she wasn't around a lot and she didn't know how to check in with me emotionally. And so I work with families, the parents, so that they don't have to feel guilty. And I work with the children so they don't have to blame and beat their parents up. And everybody takes ownership of their own emotions. And I teach people how to do that. And you would think that that's something that's inherent, but we really aren't taught how to feel our emotions, right? And so there's so much talk out here about emotional management and managing your mindset and managing. And it's like, well, we wouldn't have to manage and work so hard to manage our feelings if we were actually feeling them. And so that's really the heart of the work that I do with my clients and the people that I'm here to serve.
Sounds like there's going to be a book in this whole thing.
I've heard that a few times.
That's Bonnie and I'm working with a writer, Betty Withrow, and that's almost always, oh, have you thought about writing your book yet? and my thing's online courses, so your online course.
Yeah. The reason I always say that is people learn different ways. Some people learn online, some people read.
Yeah.
Some people listen, all different ways to learn. And then, like, it sounds like really this could be a hands-on, real experiential
Yes.
sort of a therapy. And so with the toolbox that you have, is there something you could share that, or maybe a tip just that we could share right now for people?
Absolutely. So one of the first things that happens when, well, one distinction to know is trauma is not psychological. And the way we treat people who experience trauma-based symptoms like anxiety, depression, pretty much anything you want to categorize in the mental health category, or physical symptoms, physical illnesses or mystery symptoms and pain that the doctor can't find. I mean, my story I've heard in so many people. I went to the doctor for years and they never found anything wrong with me, but I don't feel fine. All of the way we approach healing things that are trauma rooted is why we're missing the mark. And that's where I really want to add that trauma is physiological. It happens in the body. Our body remembers trauma even when our brains don't recall it or even want to describe it as a traumatic event, right? We may say, oh, my childhood was fine. It wasn't that big a deal. I just got over it. But our body could be holding on to something where it just needs help with resetting the nervous system and regulating from that event. But if our brain is not connected and our brain is thinking we're fine, it's like we're almost gaslighting ourselves and dismissing what it is that our bodies actually need. So the one tip that I would invite people with, first off, is just really the way that we perceive the messages that our body is telling us. Whenever we are in pain, typically we will assume that there is something drastically wrong. And sometimes there is. So don't get me wrong, right? When something's not right and you need to go to the ER. I would never talk somebody out of doing that. But when you have chronic symptoms that just are nagging, you're irritable, you're moody, you feel very anxious, or you go in and out of anxious states and depressive states, you're dealing with a lot of stress, your body's kind of achy, but you're not super sick, things like that, where you're just not feeling your best, really start to allow yourself to just be curious about what it is that your body is trying to communicate. You don't have to go become a detective and like drill your body on, what are you telling me? What are you telling me? Just that sense of awareness and curiosity of like, oh, this is interesting. My neck hurts today, or this is interesting. I have this headache that won't go away. Or I can tell that my moods are, fluctuating and I don't like it. I feel like I'm on some kind of yo-yo ride. One practical tip is to just learn how to affirm that for yourself. And that's the second step in my call method. Affirming what's true for you in the moment. There's such healing power in just that, because typically what we do is we inherently resist what's happening because it's uncomfortable. So anytime there's a symptom or something that comes up in our body, it's like, what do I need to do to fix this? How do I get rid of it? And then we go right into our heads, disconnect from being present with the body to go on a mission to fix it, which is a really well-intended, step to take. But I invite people to consider shifting it around, and instead of disconnecting and trying to figure it out, really learning how to connect and just affirm, this is what's true for me right now. And then being able, not just staying neutral, not making it mean anything good or bad. That would be like the number one step that has been very healing for me and my clients, is that self-affirming and that validating of, yes, I feel sad. Yes, I feel angry. And that's okay. And giving yourself permission to just be with that emotion or be with that bodily sensation that doesn't feel comfortable.
That is brilliant advice. Truly. I've done that for myself in past, asking the question without getting too excited about something, and just saying, oh, interesting. And what is that all about? And being able to go to my doctor and saying, this isn't normal for me. And she wanted to say, oh, no, you're fine.
Yes.
And I said, no, there's something going on. I know there is. And there was something. Now, interestingly enough, it was a side issue that I found out about something, but it validated that I knew something was going on.
Something's not right.
Yeah. And then another friend, that happened to her. She knew something was going on. This was like 1993, I think, 94. And she told her doctor something was going on, and something as simple as constipation. And the doctor Just, oh, you're fine, take X-Lax. And she ended up she intuitively knew something was drastically wrong, ovarian cancer, and they were ignoring her. And that's a very fast cancer. So she, blessedly, was able to have and she's here to tell the tale today. But I learned from that and something else, that it's okay to self-reflect, and it's okay to ask the questions. And it's okay to ask professionals, even if they don't believe you.
That's the thing right there. Yeah.
Yeah. And say, no, this is different from my body. So I love what you just said, though, the self-reflection and being okay with what is.
Yeah.
Right then at that moment in time, maybe journaling about it as well. I bet you have so many wonderful tools.
I do. And I don't like to give them yet because our brains are really, really smart. And our brain will pick up on where, like double dutch, it's waiting for its turn to come in and take the reins again. And so what I teach my clients is to really kind of lose your mind for a second, literally, and let some of that go so that you can re-inhabit your body and bring more of your focused attention inward, and to be present and be connected with what's true for you in the moment first. And then the more your body starts to sense that presence from you, it doesn't feel as abandoned and disconnected. And that connection piece and that presence is what creates safety in the body. And that's what heals trauma. Trauma happens in the body when our nervous system doesn't feel safe. And that can look different for everybody in their systems, right? That's why you have siblings that grow up in the same home and they experience the same parents, yet they come out of that home with different stories and different versions of what childhood was like. I know you know that with siblings, right? That's because their nervous system got to decide what felt safe and what did not feel safe. And we tend to think our brains have to conclude that. And we just live in a culture that's just cultural conditioning. That's just how our world operates, is that we're really head heavy and we're very mind centric. And so what I want to do is just bring more balance into that, because when we can work from the bottom up and really work on the emotional aspect of our foundation, emotions are just energy and they're just moving through. And when they get stuck, that's what creates discord in our physical body. And the only way our bodies can tell us, hey, there's a problem, usually is through pain or through some kind of uncomfortable sensation. So yes, it is the journey away from the mind to start really trusting and leaning into the body. And I do take this after I do foundational work. I'm working on an ascension course. And, it's all about self-mastery. Once you've learned how to really manage and heal from the emotional wounds that you've been probably carrying your whole life, with some realize, some do not, then that's when you can get in touch with your true divine creative energy, because your body's not stuck in survival mode, just burning its wheels, just trying to keep you alive and keep you sane and all these things. Once you can relax and create safety and calm in your nervous system, then you activate a whole nother part of your being, and that's your spiritual being and your soul. And you can start living from that place and attracting more and manifesting. So there's just so much more to this than just being healthy by working on your emotions, right? It goes so far beyond to let you really step into your purpose on why you came into this earth. And you both know, once you start living in purpose, well, there's nothing like it. There's nothing greater on the planet to know who you are, why you came here, and the people that you're here to serve. And then to be out doing that in and of itself is healing. I have chills just saying it. So
yes,
yeah. So it is a matter of, I slow down and keep it very simple, as if I am talking to like a toddler, and really keep the steps simple, because our brains are like little wild toddlers. And so they're just little, and without, I teach clients how to supervise their brains, but not try to control, but just to start becoming more aware and supervising what's going on in that unconscious story, that programming that we all have, and to start really understanding how that correlates with how the body feels, and start residing more in the body. So I keep the steps really simple at first before I start adding in and building in more tools that the brain can start to geek out on.
So we say we're 60 going on 16. So we're heading to that toddler state.
Yeah, yeah, you're heading back down. And I'm telling you, toddlers are the most brilliant beings on the planet. And I have one. I have an older son, and then I got married and had another child, not too many years ago, just like 3 years ago. And I'm learning so much from him this time around. I was a mom already, but doing this work, they are so brilliant, and they are so in touch, and they are so not programmed yet. And so everything they're doing is so true to who they are, even in their tantrums, even in their behaviors that we want to label as bad or disrespectful or whatever those terminologies are. So I love working with parents too, to help them start to be more conscious about the way they're parenting. And the more parents that can heal from their trauma, the more space and awareness they can hold for their children and not keep passing that down. And that's when I was saying earlier, the air quotes around whoever created the trauma in the family. Well, trauma is generational. So it's just been passed down and passed down and passed down. So nobody truly creates it. But if you're not stopping it, then you're contributing to
the cycle at some point.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely.
So I'm curious, you said calm. What's the L in calm?
The L is listen.
Oh, listen.
So, and that's where a lot of the magic comes, because once we start connecting with our bodies, learning how to live in our bodies again, learning how to be present even in the midst of discomfort and dis-ease and fear, when we can sit there and then we can affirm ourselves in that place, which is the second step, and really validate and attune to and start to learn what it is we actually need that we haven't been getting, then you can start to listen, because your body starts really responding to you, responding to it. Then you can start listening to your intuition, and you can pick up on what the emotional energy or the emotional messages and some of those uncomfortable feelings. And so the listening stage is a really powerful stage, because that is what starts to catapult you into being able to really tap into your gifts and tap into that divine nature of yourself, and really start creating and becoming more authentic in the way that you're living and showing up in the world. And there's just so much magic that happens in that. And being able to listen to your intuition and trust it is how that happens. So that's a really important step.
Fabulous.
Absolutely.
And then we get to the M.
And we get to the M, and the M is manage. And so you're really taking ownership of your internal landscape, and it's no longer society's fault, the weather's fault, your kids' fault. Like, we're becoming really emotionally aware and mature, and we've built the resilience and the emotional capacity to hold discomfort and be able to lean into things that feel painful versus resist and run from them, which creates more suffering actually. And so when we learn how to really manage our internal world, supervise our mind, really manage what's happening on the inside of us, that's when we can move into self-mastery and really start creating a lot of magic and a lot of amazing things in our lives.
This has been fabulous. I look forward to learning more about your upcoming courses, and love all that you're teaching. That is for sure. You're going to be helping so many people, because this is probably bigger than, as you said, than just a diet or just saying exercise. There's the emotional component. And absolutely. A lot of people don't connect the dots until they do, like you did. You connected the dots and are able to really create a really wonderful life for themselves. They think, if I just lost the weight, if I just did this, if I just did that, then everything's okay. Maybe, maybe not.
And a lot of times people don't realize, when I was doing health coaching, we put on weight. Weight is a form of protection. It's really the body and the brain's way of really helping us stay protected from something that's happening emotionally that we might not be able, the brain is not connecting to, because it's more of a body memory. And so this calm method relaxes the body and soothes the nervous system enough to start opening up those stored emotions that have not been safe to feel. And then, of course, I would never advise anybody do that by yourself for the first time, because that can be re-traumatizing. But in the hands of somebody, of a professional who is trauma informed and knows how the nervous system operates, to create a safe space to start that process. Then when you can get that done, working out, eating healthy, anything you're trying to achieve financially or career-wise or relationship-wise, all of that stuff becomes so much, you can create so much more ease in those relationships, because you are dealing with the main thing, that the core reason why things aren't operating in your life the way you'd like them to. So had I known this in the beginning, it would have been a lot easier, because I spent so much money and time and brain power trying to figure out what to eat and getting the science on what's not going to make my stomach gassy and bloated. And, and I didn't realize that it was the internal stress that was keeping my body from being able to receive the food in a healthy way. So all of these are important. I call them legs on the stool. The physical health and nutrition is absolutely essential. But I do feel that there's an essential sequence to start approaching your health as a whole and in a holistic way. And I just have learned how to collapse the timeline for my clients, so they don't have to go all around like I did to get to the same place, and they can get on to living their best lives sooner.
That's such a wonderful thought for everyone. To collapse a timeline that may take you years could take you much less time, and you'll be happier longer.
Yeah, you get to enjoy more of this, this life that we've all signed up for. And sometimes people don't understand why, because it's so tough out there and because it's so chaotic and there's just so much going on in the world. I really help people, if you can just really manage your internal world, that's your only responsibility. Dealing with the external world is just, it changes the whole game, because it's so much less effort you have to put into trying to control things and people outside of you. We all know that's a job and it doesn't work. So this is just a way you can conserve your energy. You can be happier. You can feel wholer and fuller, because you are literally remembering parts of yourself that got disconnected from the whole early on, and you're bringing all that back, learning how to feel all your emotions, so you don't have to be fearful of getting hurt or fearful that you're going to fail, because you know how to feel it. And it's like, okay, let's go, let's do this. And then you just get to see what you're capable of.
Wonderful.
That's wonderful. I think almost everybody needs to connect with you.
Yes.
It's good stuff. Yeah.
We all
really good work.
So is the best way your website?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
This is the long version, but there's also, if you just put the tiffanycoachme.com, I think that's a alias, and then you end up at here. I posted it in the chat, so you can go and you can make an appointment with Tiffany, and then we're looking forward to you developing your group coaching and then your book.
Yeah. I got some work to do.
You do.
Well, you have until next Tuesday.
Okay. Oh gosh.
Well, we look forward to checking in again, because right now is the perfect time to be working with Tiffany, because we're coming into a stressful season, and especially with family sometimes. But the other next thing is on a yearly basis, January, February, we often beat ourselves up because we're going to start new programs, and it's the new year, and, we want to be ready for that. So, and not get our pennies in a twist, because we promised ourselves we'd do something and then we can't figure out why we're not getting it done.
No more of that. Yeah, no more of that. Talk to me, and that will be a story of your past, and you will not have that whole New Year's resolution, whatever saga going on. I've been there too, and we could just change that record. We could just scratch
that's wonderful.
That's awesome.
that all together and really get you in touch with what it is that you're really seeking when you're going to do these new. There's more going on, and to become more self-aware and build that connection with yourself and find safety and inhabiting your real home is your body. That is the way, and I would love to support anybody through that. And I do offer a 45-minute free wake-up call to talk with me.
I love that. Wake-up call.
Wake up to what you're capable of, yes, and wake up to what's getting in the way. And it's typically almost always never what we think it is.
Yeah.
So I hope people get clear on what it actually is.
I think that is the key. Is the issue is usually not what we think it is, and it's not what's obvious. It's you need to dig a little bit deeper. So
yeah,
well, we're so blessed to have you on.
Yeah, well, thank you very much.
Story Van TV today. We look forward to hearing more, and we look forward to that the people listening today will take advantage of that talking with Tiffany and learning a little bit more about yourself. And if you'd like to work with her, that'd be grand too. It's this is something we love to share with people of how to be healthy, and health is wealth. So they all tie together. So thank you, Tiffany, so much again for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Play our cute little video, and you can hang on for a bit if you want. Okay.